and cult members of Welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our breakdown reaction cry fest of the last episode of The Last of Us Season 1. This one is called Look Towards the Light. I have played the game. She has not. I'm going to start here. The spoilers. It's also a breakdown of what we saw. Them going back and using Ashley Johnson as Ellie's mom to kind of book in Ellie's story, to how Ellie really became immune, how Ellie was everything, and having the person who played Ellie in the game is just like poetic justice. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's definitely cool that she got to come and play. They've been really good about getting people from who did the voices and stuff in the game to be in the show, which is awesome because those people had a lot invested. I mean, there's 2 games, right? And they're talking about a third. So they've had a lot of time invested in these characters. So it's cool that they got to bring them back. But I think that it's very the beginning is what happens or happened when someone made the hard decision and let somebody very close to them go. So Marlene, the Firefly person who was they were best friends since childhood, and she's, the one that has to come kill her. And at first you don't think she's going to, right? She leaves the room. And then whether she was just trying to remove the baby before she did it or had a change of heart or whatever the reason was, she went back and killed her. And then, and which was the good thing. I mean, the right thing to do, because otherwise she's just going to suffer, and that would have been horrible. And then Joel making the opposite decision and not allowing Ellie to be killed to save everyone. I mean,
possibly save
possibly,
everyone.
yeah, and that maybe can help him sleep at night. I mean, it's a Sophie's choice of a decision, right? You're like, what do you do? Do you allow them to? I mean, I think if it was me, I probably would have done the same thing, just because, like you said, possibly they don't even know. They could kill her, take her brain, kill her, and it not work, and then that all of that was for nothing. But I mean, ultimately, it was probably Ellie's choice of whether he should have let him do it.
I like to walk you through the conversation we've all been having for like 8-10 years.
Right.
I am on the Joel did the right thing camp. I can 100% get the other end of the spectrum.
The needs of the many.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. I'm not going to say few. The one.
Yeah.
And from an emotional standpoint, as a father, stepfather, I get why Joel makes all of these decisions.
Yeah.
And especially after this conversation they have when they get into the hospital grounds, and Joel talks about the reason he has the scar is because he tried to kill himself, and it wasn't time that saved him; it was Ellie.
Right.
They don't say it,
right? But he's
they both know it.
Yeah,
they both know it, and I actually kind of joke like, you two have been through so much, you have trusted each other, just do it. You ever watched a movie and thought like, this is just visually amazing, and I just love the way it looks, and the colors are amazing? Well, our friends over at Movie Palette have come up with these great pieces of art that you could put up on your wall to show your love of movies without really necessarily being overly dramatic about it. Think of a movie barcode kind of thing, where you can look at the colors and know what the movie is, but it's very, very subtle. If you know us, we are into Tron Legacy. The music and the lights and the color itself is just amazing. Just to give you an idea of what they have, go to moviepalette.com, find your own personal favorite movie, your movie color palette, and have it hang on your wall. At checkout, put in Pop Culture 15 to get 15% off. Thank you, Movie Palette, for sponsoring this video. link is in the description down below. And don't forget, use Pop Culture 15 at checkout to get 15% off your order. I, I am 100% in the Joel camp, and uh, I can understand everyone's argument about the other way.
Yeah.
I can 100% understand it the other way. But if it's your child, you tell me you'd make the same decision. And very few people in the world would be able to do that.
Right. And I mean, she's not his child,
Right.
but she has become his child, the same as a step parent, right?
Right.
You didn't make them, but they have become yours through, shared experiences and caring for them and all of this. Um and I mean, he just got done saying that losing his daughter drove him to trying to commit suicide. So he absolutely would have
Yeah.
been in the same state and probably done it this time. I mean, he's finally like you just see in this whole episode. You said Ellie looks older. She does. She's
Hmm.
very uh calm, withdrawn, I guess. She's not all bubbly, hey, and jumping around and being
Yeah.
a kid. She's very somber, and Joel is like the opposite.
Yeah.
He's like, and look at this, and we'll do this, and da 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 da,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that would have just he probably just would have killed himself right then and there. I don't even think he would have gone on because
He couldn't go through it again.
and he finally got
Yeah.
he was finally back to somewhat of the person that he probably was when his daughter was alive, and yeah,
He's the closest in this episode. He's the closest as he was in the first 20 minutes of the first episode.
yeah, yeah,
And it's he had lost everyone at that point in time, and his decision to go back. And I love that they chose to mute the gunfire in his movements are very deliberate. They're not jumping around. They're not like hiding. I'm going forward. You're not going to stop me.
right.
You MFers.
Until you stop.
Until you stop me.
Yeah.
And not one of you here is going to be able to stop me. And so I'm going to be going forward. And all the gunshots are very muted and very um, um, absent from the scene.
Yeah,
And it's so well done. Like cinematography wise of him just working his way and killing everybody and picking up guns. Like it's that straight from the game. Like almost everything after Ellie's mom's scene on is beat for beat from the game. Almost all, including the final shot where Ellie like confronts Joel about what he told her that actually happened,
right.
and her like she is as devastated about what happened than as Joel is, but Joel has compartmentalized it enough to say, "I did this to save someone I loved," and I want to get into the conversation about if she actually would have chosen that in a minute. But the idea that she felt a responsibility
Hmm.
to go through it, and then when Joel took that responsibility away from her, out of love, out of selfishness, however you want to look at it, she holds it against him, and she tries her best to believe him the best she can, but even she's lying to herself about what he did and why he did it,
Right.
and it eats at her. It's eating at her when they get to Jackson. That's why like they have that whole conversation about Sarah and how Ellie and Sarah would have been friends.
Yeah.
Ellie and Sarah would have been friends. Ellie might even have had the hots for Sarah. That's a whole different conversation for a different time. But the idea that I think in her heart she knows that he did something. He lied to her,
Yeah.
whatever that lie is. He lied to her, and that she has done everything in her power to trust anyone, and now that trust is Joel, and now that trust is broken because of the decisions that he's made, except they don't talk about it, which is
Right.
back to where we were at the beginning of the episode when they have the whole conversation at the giraffe. They've been teasing us at the giraffe the
Yep.
entire series,
Yep.
and then we have this super heartfelt, like, Joel's like, let's screw it, let's go back, and Ellie's like, I've been through some poo, and if I've done all this stuff, and if I have to have it mean something to me,
Yeah.
and her saying I have to finish this and go through, and then we get have the conversation over. It lays it out in front of us. Like, she's on one path and he is on a different path that happened to be running next to each other.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
during that time period, they fell for each other. Now, not love. They fell in love with
Right.
each
Not
other.
romantically.
Not romantic love.
Right.
And so the conversation that they have at the end is her trying to save that romantic love, the non-romantic love, that parental child love.
Right.
Except it it's forever broken.
Right. Except she's a child and she doesn't understand that that's life. That's love.
Right.
You're going to have your heart broken probably repeatedly by the one or the people that you love. And
Right.
it's just, are you gonna move on, get over it, or is it something that you can't? But she's a child, so it's all still very black and white for her, I'm sure.
She's 15-ish
Yeah.
by this point in
Yeah.
time, almost 16.
You don't
So
figure this stuff out until you're
I like that they talked about her having to kill Riley, and that still hangs over her. But she had like, oh, I had to kill Riley, and then
right.
Tess died, and then Sam died. Like, she starts listing all these people that she actually cared about, like, to kind of get to Joel and say, everybody I cared about has died.
Yeah.
Except for you, effort. Which was what, 3 episodes ago, and now that that aura around Joel is broken, and it's so hard for her to kind of deal with it, and it's so interesting that this is the story of The Last of Us is ultimately love. They've talked about it in the after things and the post and the podcast, but the ultimate story of The Last of Us is actually about love,
Right.
both the toxic and good things about love. And that the idea that love makes you do stupid stuff on
Yeah.
a regular basis.
Yeah.
And Joel shooting up the doctor who has a chance of saving all of humanity
Right.
is another example of that. And him shooting Marlene and
Yeah.
like not even cold heartedly, like out of body experience, like him just shooting her to get Ellie out, and then going back and making sure that she's dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's all very complicated because for for him, he has seen all of these organizations or uh yeah, organizations who are like Fedra. We're here to help, or FEMA. FEMA in the beginning, or
Mhm.
the army in the beginning, and then Fedra, and then even I think he feels this way a bit about the kind of the civilization that his brother is building. That they're all promising or have promised things that don't happen,
Right.
and so
Right.
and I think he's just like, all these people have died because they had to. We had to shoot them because they had been bitten, or they had bitten and now they're zombies, infected, whatever, and we have to shoot them. Or these horrible things like was it the army or Fedra that took all those people out and just killed them because
Yeah.
they didn't have any place to put them.
Yeah.
So this is the one senseless killing that he can
Justify.
stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That he
With
can
Ellie.
stop
Yeah.
with
yeah.
Ellie.
Yeah.
And going back to, you don't even know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
And these people may be saying these things and not, I mean, honestly, killing her and taking her brain and stuff. It's like, That should be the very last. Like, can't we try
But
this on rats first or something?
you lived in this world for 20 years where there's no hesitation into whatever you need to do to survive, you as a
Right.
person.
Right.
And if you project that onto everyone else, killing a little girl to take her brain to see if there's a possibility that there's a way to survive,
Yeah.
um, outside of this fungus, or have this fungus not attack you, uh, I, I I don't agree with it. Like I want, like, you do everything else except that,
Right.
and then you ask her, "This, we've done everything else we
Yeah.
could do.
Yeah.
This is the only other thing that we could do." You just jumped to the end of the process. You skipped steps 1 through 20 in the scientific process, and you got
Right.
to 25 and said, "We're just going to do this right now."
Right. As far as we know, we don't specifically know that they didn't do this other stuff, but Mar
Marlene,
Marlene was there when she was born, so she should be able to give at least some sort of insight into, her mom. The mom keeps promising that she cut the umbilical cord before she was bitten, but I mean, obviously that's not what happened,
right,
or
right,
else why is Ellie mysteriously immune when no other child that's been born
right,
since
right.
isn't? So it just
I ultimately, when it comes down to it, I think Marlene is another one of the un. Uh, she is one of the villains of the game, and she is one of the villains of
yeah,
the show.
yeah,
Ultimately, because she does the right thing for her friend and kill her at the beginning of the episode, which is the right thing to do because she knows that that person is going to succumb
yeah,
to
yeah.
this infection,
She's not
and
going to live,
so
quote unquote,
that's a
anyway.
mercy killing that
Right,
makes complete sense.
right.
But yet, in the end, her daughter, who her friend asked her to take care of, she just automatically goes to the "we have to kill her to get her brain out,"
Yeah.
or "we have to get her brain out, and if she lives or dies
Right.
is
Well,
secondary."
yeah,
And so somewhere in that process of that 14, 15 years, she's lost track of who she is supposed to be to Ellie,
yeah, yeah,
like her godmother or her
yeah.
surrogate mother or whatever.
And,
But she puts her into a Fedra camp, Fedra school, instead of raising her on her own
yeah, yeah,
as a
yeah. As a
firefly.
firefly,
Yeah.
yeah.
It,
And like Fedra was completely like brainwashed her against the fireflies,
yeah.
which is weird.
Yeah.
It's just it kind of goes back to that all like the everybody is so broken at this point. Everyone
Uh,
is so broken that you can't trust anyone. And I
yeah.
think that's kind of where Joel is. He's like, I can't trust anyone
Right. Right.
except now Ellie
Right.
because she did save him. And so
And Tommy.
and Tommy maybe
Because he talked Tommy into taking Ellie and then ultimately felt guilty for not taking Ellie.
yeah, but I kind of got a bit of a feeling like when Joel was in Cheyenne, was it Cheyenne where they went in
Uh,
Wyoming?
Jackson.
Jackson, that he was not quite sure about that whole situation and like and maybe that's not maybe not trusting him is too strong of a word, but maybe kind of felt like Tommy was going in a
I
different
think
direction.
ultimately because of what I've dealt with in the game and what I've dealt with in the show, I think ultimately Joel and Tommy's, that whole part of it is Joel is very reticent to trust any large group of people.
Yeah,
However, that large group of people present
yeah,
themselves. Fireflies, Fedra, the government, the military, raiders,
yeah,
the infected, like any large group of people, he has a problem with. And Jackson is one of those examples of where that is actually working. Like what
right,
the communist, like the communist joke that they made
right,
or whatever
right.
is actually
It's a
working because
commune. It is
right, because they're all actually working for each other.
right.
And but Tommy hasn't been able to do that outside of working for Tess or working with Frank and Joel or Frank and Bill.
Joel hasn't been able to do
Joel hasn't, right,
Yeah.
right. And so this process of him taking this package across the country is him having another person at this point in time everyone else is out of his life.
Yeah.
Including Tommy. Tommy's moved on to his new wife and his new family.
Yep.
So he has no one left in his
Yeah.
life, and he has this little girl that he is found as a surrogate replacement for his little girl.
Right.
And so again, I understand Joel's reasoning and why he does everything.
Yeah.
And he actually shows, we get to see one last time his violent, vicious nature as he goes through the hospital
Yeah.
and he kills the doctor. Like
Yeah.
it just without remorse. So
Yeah.
let's talk about Ellie's like thought process. Do we I have my theories. I think ultimately Ellie was willing to sacrifice herself based on everything that happens in the game, conversations that they have, and everything. But within the confines of the show, do you think that she was ready to sacrifice herself for the greater good of humanity?
Yeah. I mean, I think she probably was. I probably got there a little bit more after watching the after show and Bella Ramsey kind of talking about how um that's what Ellie wanted,
Right, right.
and that he didn't. I mean, I um it goes back to she's a child, right? Do
Right.
you, put that in right now context? Do you allow a 14-year-old to make that decision? And, I don't know. It depends on the 14-year-old. I don't know.
And the circumstances of our world today is very different than their world that they are sitting in.
Yeah.
A 14-year-old today can barely function with social media, and a 14-year-old in this particular instance of this show and this story is a full-on participant in the military,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
everyday society,
Yeah.
and having to learn how to shoot guns and do things that 14-year-olds that nowadays don't even
Well,
deal with.
and she was a different person when they started out,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, if you, like, when you started out, like, she just thought, you know, this was all kind of a game, right? And by the end, she's like, as I think anybody would be, she's, realized it's not a game. She's had to kill people. She's almost been killed. She's almost been eaten, literally, and and kept as a slave wife or whatever.
Right.
And she's changed, as you see that in this episode, like especially right in the beginning where she's very solemn and quiet and stuff. So um, she may have changed her mind. She may with that experience not have the romantic teenage, oh, I'm
Right.
dying for a cause kind of thing. Now that she's been out there in the real world and seen, like, and what are we saving at this point?
I,
I mean,
that's part of the conversation that they had early on when they're driving to Kansas City. Is that conversation of why keep going if we know that that everything has collapsed? Why are we keep going?
yeah,
And Joel says family. And Ellie points out, well, I'm not family. And he's like, no, you're a package. And that's like an important step for Joel to kind of point out to us as the audience to say, she's nothing to him at that point.
right,
And that's the whole process of going through everything. And Baby Girl happening last week.
yeah,
Like him accepting her from a package to a family member.
yeah,
And so Ellie's process of I'm a teenager and I'm having fun at the mall and whatever and having life happen to me in this world that is just properly effed in the A.
yeah,
All the whole way. She's grown up so much, and that's why I said she's so much older
yeah,
than she was, early on. I think in her process of everything, even if you were to ask Ellie, I don't know if she's able to give you a straight answer because she doesn't know if this world is worth saving.
yeah,
She's seen all of the worst parts of it.
yeah,
And the only good thing that she's had is Joel.
yeah, yeah.
And
I,
so I one of the conversations that we had as players is, do you pick Joel's side or do you pick the Firefly side? And it's pretty much 50-50 down the line.
yeah,
But the other conversation is, do you think Ellie would ever say yes and go along with sacrificing herself for the greater good of
right,
humanity? And that's a much deeper conversation because the teenager that left maybe
Right.
the one who falls for Joel as the father figure and loves him, no. But the person who's been through everything, been almost the victim of a sexual assault, all the different things that happened to her, she might be screw everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
and so so that's why I wanted to ask like how you felt with her process through everything
Yeah.
because it's not just Joel's story, it's Ellie's story
Yeah.
too. They just happen to be, like I said earlier, like parallel stories going along with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't. uh, Like I said, Bella Ramsey kind of made it sound like that that Joel had taken that away from her, that was her decision or whatever. But yeah, I mean, th- we're never gonna answer, and everybody's answer is right,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, after
And even Neil Druckmann said that, we left it kind of open into like
yeah,
this on purpose.
yeah, yep, make your own decision.
Yeah, yeah. And it's partly your own moral compass and how you view the world and how you
Yeah.
see the things. I myself, I don't know if I could sacrifice myself for the greater good of humanity on a maybe.
Well,
Eh,
and if it had happened at the beginning, before it became this Lord of the
Dystopian. Yeah,
Flies kind of planet, maybe, but yeah, like at this point, just let humans die off or not.
or not.
I
Like,
don't,
yeah,
it.
I don't know if I
Bleh.
care enough at that. After going through everything, I don't know if I going through everything that Joel specifically went through.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could like just sit there and say, yeah, let's try to save this thing
no,
because it's crap, and a lot of people are today like in real world today are like the world's not worth saving,
yeah,
but we're not going through a dystopian future
right.
where everything
It's
is
not
going on.
anywhere
We
near
have
that.
internet. We're
Yeah,
doing TV shows and having
yeah,
long
yeah,
conversations. So it's not great, but it's not terrible either.
yeah.
It's
I'm on Bill and Frank team. Just let's just live out our own little life,
and our
make
own,
it as best as we can,
yeah,
be as
yeah,
happy as
yeah,
we can, and then go, and the rest of you can all figure it out or not.
yeah,
But
yeah. We'll leave the window open.
yeah,
The window is actually open. So overall of the series, what did you think?
I thought it was good. Like I said, I mean, like I said last week, I think just because I haven't played it, I don't have quite the emotional attachment
Right.
that the people that I know that have played it do. But I thought it was I thought it was good. I can't wait for the next season.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I've been really good about not like kind of like talking ahead about what I think is going to happen because they've stayed pretty faithful to the game and the times that they've changed has made a ton of sense. The story that they tell in the second game is very different than the first game, and 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 it's also about love and how you deal with your representation of your love towards someone else, but it's also much more of what if love is taken away from you, and like how do you manifest that into your own actions. And this one was much more about this series, this run felt much more of love, the good and bad.
Hmm.
Let's show the good stuff that happens with Bill and Frank and Tess and like all that stuff, and the budding relationship between Joel and Bella and Ellie, but also what you do for love out of that.
Hmm.
And the second series also deals with a lot of that, but also deals with the um, I no longer care about the outside world. I no longer care about love. I am now a rage machine and what that means for everyone around you. And and it's very interesting the parallels that you have with certain characters from the first run to this to this the second run of the second game, and it's very interesting. I'm wondering how much they're going to change because there's some drastic changes in the second game that a lot of people just didn't like, and I liked the story. I didn't like the gameplay. The gameplay seemed very repetitive to me, and so I'm wondering what decisions they're going to make.
Yeah.
But with all of that being said, Neil Druckmann and what's his name? I can't remember. The other guy that did Chernobyl. I'm gonna look it up right now. Don't go anywhere. How's everybody doing? Them. That's
No.
Ashley.
Back.
Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Craig Mason. When they first started talking about this show, they were still making Last of Us 2.
Oh.
And so Craig went in to Naughty Dog to have a meeting with Neil, and Neil's like, "Do you want to see what we're doing in game 2?" And so they've been talking about this series since they were developing the second game.
Yeah.
So that tells you where they've been working on stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see what they want to do and how they want to change everything with all that going forward. This has been a fun series for me specifically to review because I played the game as she hasn't, back and forth. And I'm much deeper in the lore of this than like what she would be with like Harry Potter or Stephen King or something like that. And so it's been a lot of fun kind of each week going, I want to talk about this, but we can't because that's in 3 episodes. And so it's been a good, if nobody's been watching, I've had a good time like trying to keep myself lip sealed.
And if you know him, you know
that's
what a
hard.
struggle it was
Hard.
for him.
So all 9 reviews are up on our YouTube channel. We're also doing The Mandalorian. We're going to do stuff as we go along. We're doing movie reviews and stuff and trailer reactions and stuff. So please tell us how you felt about this series overall in the comments down below. Follow us here on Facebook. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Did I say Facebook? Follow us here on YouTube. I need some more cocktails. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, follow us on all social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links are in the description down below. I need shots. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, baby girl.